Hello, my name is Tony Murray, and for this assignment I chose to talk about the emissions trading system that was recently introduced right here in Oregon. The official name for this ETS is the Climate Protection Program. I just do my research and presentation on this specific program because I think it's more important for us to learn about what's going on in our own communities before we concern ourselves with issues that are going on around the globe, because in our own communities we can have direct impact. It's also a relatively new program, and obviously it's in Oregon, and I didn't know very much about it, so I thought I should take the opportunity to learn about it. So in 2020, Kate Brown, who was the former governor of Oregon, instructed the Oregon Environmental Quality Commission, or the EQC, to develop a new rule set that will progressively reduce emissions of greenhouse gases in the state. The Climate Protection Program was approved by the EQC back in December of 2021, and it went into effect the very next month in January of 2022. So this program only covers emissions in the state of Oregon. The program right now targets suppliers of natural gas, gasoline, propane, and other fossil fuels. The way it works is that these companies are given tokens for free that allow them to emit a certain amount of metric tons of carbon. The companies can then use these credits, bank them for later use, or trade them with other companies. That's up to them entirely. The shares right now amount to 28.2 million metric tons of carbon, which was the average in recent years, but it's set to decrease every year. The program's goal right now is to cut greenhouse gas emissions 50% by 2030 and 90% by the year 2050. As of right now, it is estimated that the program only covers 43% of total emissions, but as total credits given out decreases, so does the threshold to be covered by the program. So regulators hope to capture 99% of these emissions by 2050. The fact that these credits are given out for free instead of auctioned makes this program unique, or not unique, but changes how it works. Because they are free, companies are not required to provide any direct revenue to the government. They can give each other money to trade for them, but they're not required to. The government says that this is because their main goal is to simply reduce emissions. The one caveat to this, though, is the Community Climate Investment Fund, which is implemented through this same program. Basically, this is a way that companies can pay to have carbon offsets. So instead of having to use their credits, they can pay $81 per metric ton of carbon to this government, and they can do this for up to 20% of their emissions. This money goes into the fund, and then the fund gives that to third parties that are approved by the Department of Environmental Quality. These third parties use the money to help low-income communities that are most affected by climate change, accelerate the use of renewable energy, and go to other programs that will help reduce emissions in the state. Since this program is very recent, like I said, it only started in 2022, it is hard to tell how effective it's been. Given the conditions it sets, though, I imagine that it will definitely reduce emissions, as there's strict financial penalties for companies who exceed the credits. So it makes sense because it gets lowered every year. I expect it to work. The only problem with this is whether or not the program is allowed to remain in effect. So as of October 2023, many different fuel companies have filed lawsuits against the state, claiming that this program is not legal. Their main claim is that because they're only selling the fuel and not actually creating the emissions because they're not burning it, that the burden to pay for this and to reduce emissions shouldn't be put on them, it should be put on the consumer. I think this is a very interesting point, and so far in class, I think this is the only program I've learned about that targets exclusively producers. So it's not actually going after, like, the emissions are calculated. They're not actually measuring how much they're not measuring a smokestack, right? They're just calculating how much of the fuel these people are selling equates to into emissions. The government argues that this is the right thing to do because it places the burden on the people who have been profiting off of climate change instead of on everyday consumers. As of right now, it's unclear. It's kind of up in the air who the courts are going to rule for. Although the program does have a lot of support in the state, but obviously there's a lot of people who are against it as well. So that remains to be seen. Yeah, that's pretty much it. As far as something that from this program that I think should be going to national policy is actually that same topic, which I think the fact that the producers of fossil fuels are the main people being affected by this policy, I think that's really smart. because I think that's the most just approach, as because they've been profiting from it. I think that's who the burden should be on. I don't think it should be on consumers who just do what's best for them. Yep, that's basically it. Thank you very much for listening, and have a good day.